welcome, 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 Miguel in Belgium. How are you this morning?
Very good, thank you. And yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing amazing. It's new moon in Bali and Saturday, 20th December, almost Christmas.
Almost
I
Christmas.
imagine you have a lot of Christmassy energy in Europe. Tell me a little bit about how everything is going over there.
It's beautiful. I mean, it's a beautiful time of the year. It's winter, which is not my thing, but still with the lights, the Christmas tree, and the people running everywhere to get gifts and Christmas market. Uh, in Belgium, there is this warm wine that the people like. I don't like it personally, but the smells with cinnamon everywhere, with the spices of the biscuits, the wine, etc. It's quite pleasant. It's a nice time, and also it's a time with family from family gathering. So I will spend Christmas with my
Beautiful. Well,
family.
thank you. And thanks making the time that we to meet
Sure.
for this Venus talk. And introducing you, you're Miguel Candelas, and you are sitting right on the other end of the world, in
Just
your
here.
beautiful in Europe, while I'm in Bali, being not in New Zealand at the moment. So we both share a really beautiful story, but I want to introduce you also as the president of the Belgian chapter of the ICF, which is the International Coaching Federation. And that particular role is very pivotal in our connection. And I think I would like you to tell the story, how we met, why we met, and why we are sitting 9 months later after our initial meeting there, where we co-create something really magical. But I think I want your story and just feel
Okay.
how you interpret it. Mm.
Okay, Adrian, indeed. So I was in Bali this year in March because I've lived 7 years in Indonesia and I keep on coming back because I speak the local language and I have a lot of friends there. And for me, Bali, it's a place that I need to be there at least once a year. So I was there and I was on my last days. And then from a friend, I heard that you were around. I never met you. I never heard about you before. I didn't know about you, but that person told me that you were a love coach, and I am a coach and a love coach. So I really wanted to meet you before leaving, and I had a lot of people to meet, a lot of skill because it was my last day. As I say, I have a family, Balinese family that I was staying with. And so I decided to do whatever it takes to meet you. It overpowered me completely. I need to know, I need to meet that person before I leave the island without knowing when I was going to be back. And I even didn't know you were living there or you were just traveling. So yes, became my thing. So I made everything to happen. So we met that evening, that dinner. It was let's say a random dinner. It was not. And thank you for accepting to meet me, Adrienne, without knowing what was going to happen, right? And then we met, and then I told you about I was the president. I am the president of the Belgian chapter of the ICF, and we share our stories, our personal stories, and also professional stories as well. And what I want to say, this was special. I felt something very special. I felt like I want to know more that lady. I want to know more you, and also I want to work with you. That's clear that night, and I know from your side it was the same, and it's just magic because of you remember I needed to run because I had another appointment because I had a lot of appointments, and I was like, no, we have to meet, we have this dinner, so we we share so much in about 2 hours. Then I say, I'm sorry, I have to leave because now my scheduled appointment that I say I was not going to have dinner with them. Now I want to say them goodbye. They were leaving the island, etc., etc. But these 2 hours were so magic. And I knew that it was meant to be, and I knew that I wanted to work with you, but I didn't know how or what or how or where. Nothing was clear. And thank you for trusting this process, and thank you for trusting the energy and the encountering. And so that was in late March 2025. Then we exchanged number, and so we decided to meet again. And during this time, we exchanged about our ideas, your position as a love coach. So because I want to say something at the personal level, I'm a coach, so since 2018. Um, and of course, I've studied coaching in the United States. So I was living there for some time, 2 years almost. And that's where I entered to the field of coaching. I have a background in anthropology. I have two master's degree and one special master in languages. So I've studied communication anthropology languages, and I've worked for the United Nations several years because I want always to have an impact, a positive impact. But then I realized that the positive impact I was expecting was not really happening. So that's where when I was in the US, I just completely stop and I say, oh, okay, I need to find something else because I don't find myself anymore in what I'm doing. And I never heard about coaching. I just went to an inspirational talk where there was a coach there, and I was like, oh my God, this is it. I want to be that person. That was clear from the night I was living in Florida. In Florida, it was in a small town called Boca Raton. It's between Fort Lauderdale and West Palm Beach, and I knew I wanted to be that person. And so it happened that I started studying there. Then I came back to Europe. I enrolled in courses and courses and courses, and then I moved to Bali again in 2019. Sorry, and then COVID hit. I stayed in Bali for some years, and then I came back to Europe again. And when I came back to Europe, I decided to be more active in my coaching practice. That's at the professional level, but also at the service level. And of course, I've studied coaching under the framework of the ICF, so the International Coaching Federation, and it so happened I started volunteering and without having any expectations or neither any goal. It was just for me to be in service to a profession that I truly deeply believe in, because that coaching is what that's changed my life from being for working for the UN to something else. And also at the personal level, I've put in practice a lot of coaching practices. I've met many coaches, etc., and so on. So I truly and I believe in the coaching as a profession. It's transformation. So I say I want to be in service for this energy. And so it happened that a year and a half later, there was a committee of election, and they elect me the president of Belgium. And that was a big honor because first I didn't expect it. And I was like, okay, wow, thank you. What a recognition after all that I'm truly in the field that I felt in my heart back in the United States. And here I am representing the Belgian chapter of the Federation, of the International Coaching Federation that I've met first in the United States, in my country, in Belgium. When I say my country, yes, I'm Spanish, Belgian. I'm from the world, but with my family lives in Belgium, and I was born here. So yeah, I felt like, wow, this is amazing. And so what back to the question of how we met, and when I was in
I mean, you
Bali,
were only a president. It must have been a couple of months or something. I mean,
a
you
year
really
now.
started only January
Oh yeah,
this year. So
yes,
we met in
yes,
March. So you were
yeah,
just kickstarting, really getting
yes,
used to the huge
absolutely.
responsibility. Yeah. Mm,
Absolutely. Yeah, when we met, I was the president for 2 months and a half. So it was really
mm.
recent. And it's a lot of duty, a lot of work, and I put everything in a line before me being able to travel. But I was still, and you remember I told you, always online working and talking and managing the ICF from remotely because that's the work, and it's an amazing journey. Just very short numbers. When I started, the team, we were 5 people, 5 or 6, because the Belgian chapter was a bit in a transitional moment. And today, when I'm talking now on the 20th of December, we are 25 people. So in 10 months, the team has grown exponentially. It's just crazy. And because I've also implement this energy that I love, which is like we grow together. We For me, coaching is not, of course, it's a one-to-one feel partnership, but it's also growing together, being part of a community. The sense of belonging is important because we coaches always work on alone on our side with clients, right? But the International Coaching Federation is also about putting people together. And I thought I put that very much, I emphasize this in my presidency here. And the results are here. People come, people we got from event for
There's a real
15.
need, as what you express. It's really, really pivotal because
Yes,
things become so obvious that it's important to align, our practices with certain
absolutely,
standards that really, really help people to take this profession very serious. But I want to share something.
absolutely.
What I observed in our meeting was that we are very big storytellers, and we love to share. You and me in that regards are very similar. And I remember you shared first for almost an hour, and then we turned the tables, and I shared my story. And that presidency thing didn't come as a story at the beginning. You were not telling this. And the friend who said to me, there is this man who wants to meet you. This is Miguel, and he is visiting from Belgium. And he heard you're here, and he wants to meet you tonight. And I said, tonight? All right, okay. So we had that dinner at Kaboon and sat in beautiful U-Boot on the main road on this little table. And this friend who introduced us as that person on the table, just looking at us. There was no conversation with that person. We just had our interaction. And I remember that my story, just 5 minutes, 10 minutes before you were supposed to leave the table, I actually then told my story. And then, 30 years later, at the end of my stories, and now I take all this, what I have learned, and all this, what I know about love, into another project. I want to build an academy training coaches in love and relationship. And I never forget what you said. You said just bluntly and straight in my face, big, big eyes, and says, and I'm the president of the Belgium, chapter of the ICF, and I can help you. And that was just, it was just one sentence, really one sentence. And I remember looking at you and thinking, oh my God. And then we
Yeah.
had no time to speak, you had to go. And I remember my whole, my nervous system was very, very upside down. And it really took a while, to integrate that. And it took us a long time to reconnect because we were meant to meet in Bali, but you got very sick. And,
Yeah.
you had to leave then Bali in being very infected. And I'm not telling any illness stories now. But our meeting that was very, very carefully planned, literally on the last day of your stay in Bali, only a few days after our dinner, had to be cancelled. And
Yeah.
I think it took us 2.5 months, wasn't it, to reconnect and really find the opportunity to go on a Zoom call. And it was almost like, starting all over again because there was so much happening in between, particularly for
Yes.
you. I think not so much for me, but I believe if I wouldn't have had this incredible trust and this divine guidance that we both were meant to meet at the right time for the right purpose, I probably would not have, engaged in reinforcing our communication more, because I would have said, okay, this didn't happen, but something in me knew that there was a real, calling here. And now I want to sort of hear from you what actually happened when you finally, I sent you the business plan. I think that was the next step. You were very
Yes.
busy after recovering from your infection that took you a long time to heal. And I remember you then saying, oh, okay, you really do this, now let's talk. So tell me more, what happened for you when you actually really reconnected with me so much later and realized this is really serious. She's doing this, It's not
Yes.
just an idea, but she's talking about building a business and a company. And so share, because I want to know how. I think I have never asked you this question, what really on an
No.
emotional level was happening,
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. That's true. We never talk. So it's true that I was frustrated, to be honest, and frankly saying and transparent that counter could not go further because of the situation. We met 3 days before I left. I was supposed to leave, and
Hmm.
then the three last day that I wanted to meet you again, I got very sick. And I felt like, oh my God. And then I came back to Belgium. I was so busy with my work, with the presidency, and also recovering. I was exhausted and I had no room, literally saying and honestly saying that for anything else. That I was just focusing on my work because, of course, going to Bali means also when I come back, I have work to do and also to manage the chapter of Belgium, the ICF. So I was really busy. But then I remember I think I've texted you as like, okay, I will text you when I can reconnect. And it took me, I thought, okay, in 1 or 2 weeks. To be honest, I never thought that it was going to take that long. And after, remember, I even apologized. I say, sorry, Adrienne, it took me longer. But what we shared still is in my heart and it's in me. I want to continue on this sharing we had. But I was simply not having the time and the energy. And so I connected with you, I think it was a month and a half or about 2 months. We were
Oh, it was
in,
May by then. It
it
was
was
my
May, but
birthday, around my birthday, 2 months
so
later.
I
Yes.
we met in April, I remember, because I flew back from Bali end of March or beginning of April.
Hmm. But our
And
meeting was some sort of, I can't remember, around 18th March or something. It was some sort of mid-ish March, yes. Mm.
end
But you were
March.
still, but
Yes,
yeah,
end
I can't
March. End
remember, but it
March.
was
Yes.
certainly not April that we reconnected. It
No,
was
no, 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 no. It
then
was
May,
May. It was May. But it was
Yeah.
after Nyepi. So Nyepi, this
Mhm.
beautiful time of silence in Bali. There was as this year around 19 or 20 of March, and it was just after. So it was after
Yeah.
Nyepi we met. So yeah, it took about 2 months, and then I said, Adrian, I'm sorry. Here I am with energy now. I was extremely imagine starting the presidency, then going to Bali and working, being sick. Oh my God, that was a lot. And I wanted to check on you, like I want to know if what you have to say to me is like happening or it's just like, oh, because anyway, I smile when you say at the end of the conversation, I told you that I was the president. Because it's not something I used to say up front, because it's a title, of course, it's a position, it's an honor for me to be a president. But
Yes, of course. Yeah.
it's also I want also people to not know me just because I'm this, and then when I reconnect with you, I say, okay, can we have a talk? And I know it could, and I put myself in your shoes. I'm very empathic, and I was like, oh my God, how will you feel after these weeks? Um, And I thank you, and I thank you again here that you trust that connection that we had, that we have, that we having, because it's special, and we both, I think, knew that something was meant to be and was meant to be created. And we both trust that, despite the context, the craziness of the timeline, the timing, and whatever. And so when I reconnected, it's like, okay, I know there is something. You say that you trust and you put your hand here. I also had the same feeling. I connect to myself and I felt like, okay, something, connect to this. Because from my side, I feel it and I know it's real. And I wanted to recheck on you if it was also shared.
Mhm.
And here you are with your open heart, of course, your love coach, with your big open heart, saying, "Let me, Miguel, let's talk." And then we shared, and it was magic because, despite, and this is what I think, that's what has built trust in what we're doing. Because despite the configuration, despite the context, despite these 2 months or 6 weeks, 7 weeks, I forgot to be clear, the connection was there, is there, and the willing to create what we're creating is there. And look at us ourselves. That we reconnect in May with the brainstorming. Then it took us a while to put into practice, and then I say, okay, you say we must meet because we couldn't meet in Bali, and it's like, yes, you're right. Let's meet this summer. You say, I say, okay, let me find a place, and I didn't want to meet in Belgium just because I never know if it's summer will be good as summer here, and I would needed sun and chill and good weather. So let's say I have this friend in Portugal that by the way, I want to thank her for allowing us to be able to share this time together. And so we had this flat. So happened magically from out of the blue in Portugal, in Lisbon, beautiful town. And I proposed you this, and I put you in contact with her, and we clicked. It was like, okay, it's happening. So you travel from Bali to Europe to meet me and to spend time with me and to work together. To not just say, okay, we will create something. No, we create. We remove the will. We create something, and it's not just a wish. It's something concrete. And what I think makes us very clear is that I am a man of my words. You know, I know you know that, and you are a woman of your words. When you say something, you mean it, and I think this is important to really emphasize and highlight it because today we live in a world where people, I don't want to say people what they're doing, not doing, but it's a tendency like committing to your words. It's also a engagement of trust. If I tell you something is not just to look good or to just pretend, etc. It's because I mean, if I say yes, it's yes. If I say I know, if I don't know, it will be maybe. And I really want to emphasize on this. And I told you, I want to work with you. It's a full yes. Now the frame will be maybe because the configuration was the maybe because of me leaving the sick, then the prison, a lot of work, etc. And then here I am with you saying, okay, this summer we meet, not we will meet, we meet, and that's a yes. And we made it happen together. We put our energy together.
And I think what I want to not interrupting you, but I think
No, please
I'm
go ahead.
almost running internally the wave with you. And I think when I hear you talking, I realize, in this personal development and coaching world, and with the many opportunities people have nowadays to take coaching or a particular modality or something on board. And I want to, before I come into the direction of love and relationship, I want to just stop here for a moment and really smell the flowers on that particular aspect, that we both knew that the attitude we are bringing to the process of working with one another would greatly, deeply, profoundly shape the culture. I
Yes,
studied business, so I mean, for me, this is very um, you know pivotal to imagine in my vision, being a visionary, what culture do I create here? You know, what are the values? What is the vibration? What is the way of living and working with one another in the context of what we are creating here? And I really I'm so grateful. I know it took a while to really deepen this, but what I'm amazed about is that you really understood me. I think I felt very understood.
Mm-hmm.
And despite the fact that you had never coached with me, you didn't know me as coach.
No,
You probably have never seen one of my videos. Quite frankly, I have no idea I know you were far too busy to break your mind
at
and
that
heart
moment, no, I
on
didn't.
the fact whether you like
I
what
will
I'm
not
doing or
lie.
not.
Yeah, of
I
course.
know this by heart that because when
I
I
know.
sat with you, it was almost like there's a part in me who has really to, what's the word, not to establish some credibility, because I know you respect me, but there was so little what I knew you knew about me professionally
Mm-hmm.
that it was
Mm-hmm.
almost like, how on earth can we have that conversation? But we were in this flat and it was hot, and we had two very needy cats around us who were very, very busy keeping us, kind of busy in the sense of, we like you here, but actually we don't like you here, So it took us a
The
little
cats were
while
the owner of the place.
to find our own niches in our individual bedrooms, and finding it all very, very some sort of comfortable to just even stay there. But sharing all this whenever we really engaged in the deeper professional conversation, I think what was really, really pivotal, that we knew that it was almost like a blueprint. We are like a space we are tapping into, where you gave me the chance to just literally talk and voice my creation. And I'm so grateful for that, because the way you received me was really one of, you just listened and took notes, and it was all happening. And in moments you really knew to add value, you added value very strongly and very directly. But I think the co-creational process was within very short time, very,
Yes,
very in sync. And I think that made
yes.
it really also possible to trust
Mm,
that if we ever reach this point, that we really, really make a confirmed date happen to kickstart training in Bali, which was our vision. And I
mhm.
will come to why Bali later, but I think I want to now tap into exactly what I said a few sentences ago. What is it in you that feels so inspired about this whole theme of love and relationships? Because I have my story. I know the story to tell when people ask me, oh, why would you be a love coach? And it's a long journey. But Miguel, what was it when you heard I'm a love coach? I know you worked in particular fields, and you tell your story really exactly how you feel ready to tell it. But the part that really intrigues me is what makes this love and relationship vibration so interesting for you, and why now? And why would you even sign up knowing that you have another year as president, and then doing something really big with me that could lead to you never ever doing anything else again than just training love and relationship coaches? So how do you feel about that? What's coming up for you when you think about that?
It's a good question. Thank you, my dear.
Because I really want to be visionary here. I can imagine you have not even thought about this point, that there comes a time that it will be so pivotal that we solely help people to become and to be love and relationship experts, that our whole world will be completely consumed with the vibration of that area of life for people. So speak about it. I really would like to hear what you have to
Yes,
say.
that I would speak about my some personal stories, if you permit me,
Yeah. So I mean, what
because
makes it so interesting that your story of love and relationship actually translates into your professional interest to develop that? Yeah.
well, before meeting you, and that happened a couple of years ago already, I had a thought that one day I will be focusing my coaching into the relationship field because there is so much need there. But I felt before getting there, I want to work first on myself. And also I trust that the time will happen by itself. That's what I suddenly say like out loud to the word in the meditation. So I put and I focus to work more on my coaching. I learning. I always enroll in courses, teaching, learning. So why? The why is very important. It goes to my personal story where I've been in several relationships where I have experienced a lot of abuse of so many kind. And I think, and sadly, I want to say sadly, I think a lot of people can relate to this. And that's
Mhm.
sadly, that's what makes me, there is a work to do. And I will go beyond genders because we often hear, oh, women have suffered from a man, but men can also suffer from a woman, or man can suffer from a man. It's beyond gender and it's beyond culture. We see, oh, people sometimes they say stereotyping, and an anthropologist, I cannot go into stereotypes like, oh, some countries have more tendency, like Latin countries, or this or that. And I want to go beyond this lecture as well, because I think there is no such a thing that abuse is related to culture or related to gender. It's happening in different layers in every, sadly, that's an alarm here, I want to say, in many contexts, whether that culture is a strong culture or not, whether it a gender, and I don't want to say that a gender is more powerful than another gender. No, for me, we are all facing, sadly, that different kind of abuse. And it even can be between family members, not always couple member, like woman, wife, husband, or etc. It can be between brothers, between sisters, mother to son, etc., and so on. And my personal level, there were two relationships, but they were really abusive. And the last one that I was living in Bali with that person, by the way, was really abusive. And I was with my coaching skills already, but I was in love. So what happened when we love? I was not able to be in a position of a coach with myself in a couple because simply a coach is somebody that is in a partnership with a client, but in a neutral position. Whenever you have feelings with the person, you lose your neutrality, of course, and that's normal. That's nothing to blame or to condemn on this. But then I have experienced really severe abuse and with words, with actions, with manipulation of so many kind. And I was feeling, oh, something has happened here, but it's okay because okay, we love each other, you know the story. And until I got sick, simply my body, and I want to thank this body because my body saved my life. My body could not handle anymore the abuse. And so that it just start rebel in a rebellious mode, was like rejection. And then I was accused as well to be sick. That person left me because I got sick. She said that it's not when you are a spiritual being, you cannot be sick. And if you're sick, it means you're not spiritual person. Can you imagine the level of abuse that means? It means that
Mhm.
I had started feeling rejection towards my own body. I was
Yes.
rejected by somebody saying, I can't love you because you're sick. That's finally I left Bali and I really, and that's my personal belief. I don't want to impose my beliefs to anyone. Again, I'm an anthropologist and we're a coach. Everybody has their own belief system. But my belief is that the gods of Bali saved my life because they kicked me out of the island. That was for me the only way to step out of the story and have a look from outside, from the outside, to the meta position, like we say, to just see at the bigger picture as like, oh my God, Miguel, you were in an abusive relationship. But that's because that sickness that was saved my life. So
Mm.
it took me some time, of course, to realize this. And I work very much hard on myself. And so this is what happened. And I felt like, oh my God, I'm a coach. I've done a lot of things on myself. And yet I wasn't abusive. And I felt something, but I wasn't really aware of the level of abuse and manipulation I was in. It's like, okay, so it doesn't mean that you are protected because you're a coach or because you go counseling. I really, and there's something, a parenthesis I want to say here. I really believe because in the spiritual world, in the spiritual, people often condemn counseling therapists uh, in terms of psychology, psychoanalysis, etc. They say, oh, it's too scientific and let's do something else, shamanism, this and this and that. I don't want to go to that field, but I truly trust these people that have studied 5 years in university to do counseling and therapy in different kinds, psychoanalysis, etc. Because it saved me, it helped me. But parallel to this, I was still seeing a coach because I think both together and the work of a coach and the work of a psychologist are two different things. Let's not mix them. But coming back to my story, I work hard and I realized this, that, etc. And I felt like the coaching help me because coaching is about putting in action. You put in action yourself. You go into an action to change, to go to transformation with your own realization, all the things that you have experienced in the either in the counseling part or in different practice or in the coaching as well. And that saved me. Of course, the
Mm.
process was long because I didn't realize the level of abuse I was in. And my body, imagine sick, reacting. I had to start to re-love my body. Love, love all the time. Love my body. And to love that sickness. And that was the hardest point. Oh my God, how can I love something, a sickness or whatever, that's cut my life from being with my loved one? Or that I almost died. Simply, I flew back from Bali with an internal bleeding. I was depleted, and doctor in Belgium when I came back, they told me few more days. I was stabilized because I spent 10 days in the hospital in Bali before flying back to Belgium in 2021. But then I felt I was stabilized. But then my best friend is the doctor. He said, Miguel, still go back to Belgium to check up because I don't trust this. And we never know. And doctors here, when they took my blood, etc., and all my markers, they say if you were okay, you were stabilized by the parasite is still there, and your sickness, and it could have come back. And if you were have started again, it would, I would have died. They say, and I would have died simply as such. And that was a big slap on my face.
Oh,
Like,
wow.
oh my God.
Thank you so much, Miguel, sharing your story. And I think this is a wonderful moment to actually tap into the third part of this conversation, which really speaks about Bali and our love for Bali and why
Yes,
we are bringing love to Bali and
yes,
extend and, expand love for others in Bali. So, I mean, I personally know from my own experiences, having worked here in retreats and with clients for the last 13 years, yeah, and living in Bali more or less full time 7 years now. I know that there is an energetic on this island that has a very, very, very complex, frequency. You can tap into a very expansive, spiritually nurturing, and enlightened energy. But there's also this other part where you can become almost karmically haunted. And then what people call maybe, I don't want to give this a name, but there's all sorts of stories about, what can happen in Bali if you are not careful with your own energy. And very often people come here and think they come for a holiday, but then they have a completely different experiences, and they get sick, or they get robbed out, or they have an accident, or something like this, and then they're kicked out, but then karmically they know they have to come back to almost relive this and to release the karma. So I believe that you and me in our very own way have had a lot of deep stories and also relationships in this country that shaped us to make us those persons we are now. And from outside, people would say, well, why would you ever choose, to continue live here or coming back and do business here when there is this and this and this and this that is maybe not as safe or not as completely. But I wanna really ask you and hear your love for Bali and what really holds you home, because one of the first things you said to me, and that was actually the wake-up call to continue having this conversation about my dream building this academy, because I knew you wanted to maintain a deep connection with Bali, not just in the sense of traveling once a year and having a holiday, but you were very openly sharing with me, once my presidency has completed itself and I professionally expand globally, I want to live 6 months per year in Bali and 6 months in Europe. So what is this connection with you in Bali, and what you having lived here? You're speaking Bahasa fluently. You lived in
Yes.
Jakarta. I mean, your story is pretty comprehensive and very multi-layered, because you did not just work in the spiritual and kind of spiritual healing and teaching field, but you also worked in business and for the UN and all of it. So what is with Bali that makes you tick, and what is it you feel calls you home here? And what is your experience for our work and for the work of anyone doing something as expensive like we are planning, to really do it here first before we go somewhere else?
I will share with you something I think I never told you. Indonesia, I did never choose Indonesia. Indonesia has chosen me. This
All
is
right.
something, this I never told you that story. So how I ended up in Indonesia. This is maybe how it started. So I I left Belgium when my father died years ago. It was going to be 20 years ago. And I was in the search of meaning of life. Like I was completely lost. And I did 2 years world trip around the world alone, backpacking, finding my place. I needed to find my place. I needed to know where I was belonging to anymore. I was living in Spain by the moment. My father died in Belgium. We were not talking to each other. I was angry. And then I decided to call him after 2 years not talking, and I flew back to Belgium to meet him. Especially, it was on a Wednesday, 10th May 2006. Never forget. And then you say, okay, let's meet on Saturday. I imagine your son wants to meet you after 2 years. You say, okay, postpone 3 days. And then on Saturday, call me, Miguel, I'm sorry, I'm busy. Let's meet on Monday. Guess what? He died on Sunday.
Was
He
Sunday the
died
11th of May?
the 16th, no, I arrived on the 10th of May.
And then it was the week later. Yeah.
He
Because
died
I'm just asking, 11th May is my birthday, so I thought
he
like, okay.
died he died on the 14th of May
On the 13th of
2006
May. Mm-hmm.
with a heart attack, 48 years old, completely
Mm-hmm.
not sick at all. And I was supposed to meet him the next day. I never met him. So of course I was left with a lot of questions, anger, etc. And I will not go there. So I traveled the world. I went to India. I went to Mumbai to see people dying in a slum. I need to see the poverty and the suffering of the people. So I went to people country war countries. I need to see that's crazy. I know now thinking about it, it's crazy, but I've traveled 2 years traveling around the world. I spent month in South America. I spent 1 month in the forest, in the Amazon forest with a shaman. Not the shaman of, because I speak Spanish, not the shaman of like you do a tour with ayahuasca. No, no, no. I really wanted to go to as far as inside as far as, and it was in 2000, I forgot, 15 years ago. So yeah, and and I remember I did my ayahuasca there. I spent a month completely naked in the forest. My God. And I say, okay, I will stay here because that shaman didn't even speak Spanish. He spoke, the son was translating everything in Spanish. And one day he took a stone and put the stone in my hand and listened to what he said. It took me years to understand what was the meaning of this. And it's like the stone, he was looking in my hand like the stone was not falling like accordingly. And it's like, you don't belong here. You don't belong here. You belong where you will live your upside down. Your head must be upside down. I didn't understand what I mean. But if you think about it on the planet, Indonesia is exactly the opposite where I was at the moment. So my head is upside down from the place I was with him. But then I didn't know, so I started to continue traveling and traveling and traveling. And then I was in Burma. So from imagine I was in Bolivia, Ecuador, whatever, Peru, traveling, backpacking, went to Syria, countries with war, Palestine. Imagine it was like. Then Burma, Burma was still not a democracy, was still a dictatorship with this at the time. Was dangerous because there were people, there was no ATM, no internet. To get money, you had to go to the black market. The cop were following you. Oh my, it was crazy. And then I felt like, okay, I will become a monk. I want to be a Buddhist monk. And then I got my letter of admission. I have to fly back to get out of the country, get my admission letter, etc. So I arrived in Kuala Lumpur and I got stolen everything. All my trip, my book, all my trip, my everything, the letters, everything. They stole my bag. I lost everything. Then I didn't know what to do. I went to a Buddhist center. I spent 35 days in silence, waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning, meditating, the kind of vipassana for 30 days and 5 days after its service. The time that, because my family was like, okay, go back to Belgium. But before I went to the center, it's like, no, no, there's something else waiting for me. And so I needed just to get my credit card. There was no internet at the moment. There was no phone. The iPhone was not, I mean, there was no WhatsApp at the moment at that time. So I got my credit card back and I say, okay, I go to the airport in Singapore. The first flight, the cheapest one. I didn't book. I say, this is where I will live. I will stay for 2 months. That was my plan, 2 months. Guess what? It was Jakarta. Didn't choose because my trip was to be going back to Vietnam, etc. And doing the train, Trans-Siberian train. I wanted to travel more 6 months because I wanted to travel 3 years. That was my number. It was 2 years. Then, of course, the year left. I never did. And I arrived in Jakarta. I was like, what am I
But then
doing
there's
here?
still a long period you went in Jakarta,
4 years I
to
spent
several
here. four
places of
years.
your story. But and to shorten this a little bit, when did you actually really arrive in Bali, and what was the experience here compared
That
to
time. But
Jakarta?
to think about Indonesia, I thought that I was going to spend 2 months there. I spent 4 years in Jakarta working, UN, working. Then I became a singer. I won a TV competition. I became famous in Indonesia. It was a long story. I did some films, etc. And then I was going to Bali often. And then I saw, and Bali was something. And I felt like, okay, I need to move from Jakarta to Bali. But then I was having a life in Bali, in Jakarta. I had a life there. So I went to see some in Java, they call this healers. They're Muslim, but they still have this tradition. And they were like, oh my God, you are Indonesian, your soul is Indonesian. Then I went to see another healer in another island in Belitung. Oh, the same story. I needed to harvest as much as people not knowing each other because people were saying, you Indonesian in your soul, you Indonesian in your soul. And then I arrived in Bali and I felt like, oh my God, this is where I belong. But I never chose Bali. I never chose Indonesia. I know the story now. And so that's why when I say when COVID hit, etc., I spent these 3 years in Bali. So total years, as I say in the beginning of this call, 7 years in Indonesia, but that's never been my plan. It's never been my, And with Bali, the special is that when I told you when I got sick, I come back with this relationship, etc. My best friend is a Balinese healer and Balinese priest. And he said, now in Belgium, you have to continue to pray because you convert you give your trust to the gods that kick you out of the island, by the way. But at that time, I didn't know it was because they wanted to save my life. I was like, I'm in Belgium. How can I pray? There is no temple. It's like, yes, the God told me you have to go to the embassy of Indonesia in Brussels because they're waiting for you. Imagine, Adrian, somebody from Bali telling me this, that I have to go to the Indonesian embassy in Brussels to ask to
So
pray.
what message did they have for you? What was it, what they
The
really,
God
really
told that guy, that my best friend, my brother, he said, the God told him that I had to go to
yeah.
the embassy of Brussels because I was
Mhm.
sick and they were waiting for me to get the last healing water blessing in Belgium temple. I didn't believe it. I was like, okay, my dear, okay, yeah, but this is, he said, you go, otherwise you will never be able to come back to Bali. They will not allow you to come back to Bali. So I said, okay, maybe I call them, didn't pick up, so I send an email. Imagine in Bahasa, I send an email and speak to the officer of the Indonesian embassy. Hello, my name is Miguel. I want to pray to a temple. Can you help me? I was like, they would think I'm crazy.
What a crazy thing in itself, having an Indonesian Balinese temple in Brussels, you know. I mean, this in
And
itself
I didn't
is quite
know.
mystical. Yeah.
And
Mm.
then they answer me in less than 24 hours. The next day morning, I got a call. Miguel, in Indonesian, huh? I was like, what's this? Yeah, thank you for your email. We have a temple in between Brussels and Mons. It's on the west side of Belgium, so it's 2 hours drive, an hour and a half drive from my town, because I live on the eastern side, close to Germany. I was like, yes, indeed, we have a temple, and there is a Balinese and Indonesian community in Belgium, and there is a priest that takes care of the temple, and the priest is waiting for you. I was like, what? The magic of Bali was happening in Belgium.
Mhm.
And I was sick. I was in the hospital because I got very sick afterwards. I got 3 surgeries because when I came back from Bali from the sickness, what I didn't tell you, I wanted to go back to Bali right after getting feeling better, but I got there was that guy that entered the flat at 5 a.m. in the morning and attempt to kill me. I was a victim of attempt of murder, like everything not doing for not me to come back to Bali. So I got paralyzed. I got my left leg was paralyzed. I got 3 spine surgery, etc. So of course, no, go back to Bali. And then so I called the priest. The priest called me right after the call of the embassy. I was like, Miguel, on Saturday we do a ceremony for you. Can you come? I was like, yeah, okay. I leave the hospital on Thursday for my first spine surgery. And she said, you need a clean, she's a priestess. She said, you need a cleansing. So I go there. I ask a friend to drive me. And there was this, listen, it's in a zoo. So they built a temple next to a zoo. And there I
Amazing.
am. But then the temple is real, and Balinese from all over Europe. There were Balinese from Iceland, from Germany, from France, from Spain, from Portugal. One came from, I remember, from Bulgaria, from Greece, from people from all over Europe. They came to this ceremony. There was a big gathering in Belgium temple. And here I am.
Amazing.
Priestess told me she came with a small, in Bali they have this what we call pelankiran. It's a small temple they put in house. They bought this for me and they say now you will put this in your house, so Bali will be with you all the time. And they did the ceremony for me in Belgium with people, with all the Balinese in Belgium. I What to say?
And the reality is actually, since this all happened, you really haven't moved back to Bali yet. And here I am inviting you to build this incredible empire of our
Absolutely. but they
school.
but they told me
Yeah.
Bali now is ready to call me back. If they say, and the priest just tell me, the gods tell you this, Bali will tell you come back. You will go back minimum once a year. This is why that's how I met you. Because and once a year I was asked to do a pilgrimage to Bali since this cleansing in Belgium in the Balinese temple here. So I commit to them, and you know my words. When I commit, I commit. I said, okay, I will go to Bali once a year to go to a pilgrimage. So every year I go to Bali for 3 weeks, a month. and I do the round with I take a motorbike and I go to temple from temple and I do my pilgrimage to pray to God, to thank them that they kick me out of the island to save my life. And they asked me to pray in Belgium, and now they ask me to come back. And this year, the priest, I met my best friend, saying, now you will be ready to come back to Bali because you've done this cleansing, you've done this process, and you
And
will
on
need.
this very visit, you meet me with this vision. And look at this, I mean,
Exactly.
it's very interesting. And I see this in my own life. I have done different professional journeys and timelines of being in business and being a healer and being a filmmaker and editor. And then I became, a body worker. And then I was eventually a coach and a love coach. And I'm doing this now 15 years. But the filmmaking and the film editing and everything from my arts background is all coming back. And I guess, you equally to me have this experience that all these skill sets, all these wonderful things that you have experienced, even your singing and your acting and whatever this might be, is part of this new life of becoming
Absolutely.
really visible and having a big message. I mean, you and me really developed very silently, very quietly in the background. We are still not 100% launched. We're not doing any marketing loudly yet. It will happen in January. And we're already planning late March to take a group through a 17-day process in Uluwatu in Bali. And what I find so fascinating is this anticipation of really not knowing how this will play out. Are you feeling it? It's almost like mystical or mysterious and magical how this
Trust.
energy of the place and of the environment and our stories and our individual, you know, good and bad things that we experience in this environment here shape
Because we trust.
our trust, the
The
trust,
trust,
to bring the
absolutely.
word back again,
Word, you see,
that the
trust.
trust that something is unfolding beyond our knowledge and our conscious awareness, but it's happening for much higher reason, for much more elevated
Yes.
and expensive cause. And I think both of us have, even so the coaching profession does not carry this by nature, but we have individually very, very caring and very charismatic soul paths where we give a lot and help a lot and do a lot, for people where money and success is not number one value. We really want to help. We really want to see people happy, healthy, and transformed. And I think bringing these values all together and now integrating the learning, of having been on a very, very humble and very, very charismatic and karmically, difficult path to, I overcame cancer, and my story is in many of my videos reflected from different angles. But the really what I bring in as real strengths is my trust in my own higher vision and this visionary intent to really bring something into manifestation that lasts longer than my own life will be, important in this body. And so it's basically my legacy. I cannot speak for you, Miguel. You are, you know quite a bit younger and significantly younger, actually, and still have probably more space to plan out your life. But one thing I'm really, really grateful for is that you believe in my legacy, you believe in my vision. And I think what we are creating here is rather special. So what is the thing you look most forward to when you think about doing this with no idea what really will happen? If I ask you now, what is the magic for you in your mind and heart and all that?
Well, honestly, it's the trust and the love coaching. The trust
Mm.
and love coaching, simply because, as you very intelligently say, we have our own stories, and I want to say, sadly, we have experienced abuse, and there is a need, and also there is this calling. As I say, my story, excuse me, my story with Bali is special. Your story with Bali is special, and I also the what I want to say here is that whenever I think all my experience is meaningful when I share. Sharing is caring, as we say. And the love coach is about giving the tools and empowering. And this is a word I really want to strengthen here, to empower people so that abuse can stop.
And we're
And
not talking just about abuse. For those listening and take
oh,
this word
not
abuse
just
very
abuse,
physical, we talk about toxic relationship,
toxic,
about,
exactly.
we're talking about emotionally dysfunctioning relationship. We're
Because you
talking
say
about
something
karmically dysfunctional
at all levels and
yeah.
all levels. And I want to say something. You say we want to all, what is the common point for all human beings? We want to be
Mhm.
happy.
Yes,
And we want to be happy. And what is happiness? One part of the happiness is, and is for common for all the cultures, is relationship. We are human beings, and human beings, the Homo sapiens behavior is we exist in relation with others. We cannot exist
exactly. Life is
alone.
relationship. That
Life
that
is
philosophy
relationship.
really got me to become a love coach from a spiritual perspective, because I realized that anything and everything, you know, rotates and happens around these core relationships we are, you know, some sort of embedded in from a karmic, evolutionary perspective. And if
We
we are
need
not,
each other.
yeah, and if
We
you're not
need each
healing them,
other.
and if you're not looking at them, and usually it's really important to look at our birth father and mother, those who conceived us, in this world of a lot of blended and mixed families. And it can get very confusing. So, oh, this is my father and this is my mother. But it's actually quite powerful to tap into these energetic fields, where people are not even growing up with your story is so pivotal. Your father left the family early. You had no contact for many years. You searched him to find out more about your father, because as a young man, that was important to you. And guess what? You realized that the chance to do this healing on the physical plane was robbed from you. It was taken away in your father being not alive this long. But guess what? Here's also the ability, and I'm really privileged because I did a lot of deep spiritual training, and that's actually how I came to coaching. I did a lot of processing in that field and really healing these karmic layers and helping people to release, these energetic bonds, to parents and to children and to ancestors, from a very, very high frequency and subtle level. And to translate this subtle, harmonizing, healing energy into something we are experiencing in conversation, like you and me have right now, and really translate it into something that we live and breathe and have, almost as a metaphor for creation of something new. If you miss the opportunity to really be aware of what's really happening on the deeper level, how sad it is, not to learn to do it better and to create a functioning connection, to have the love, to have the trust, and more than anything, to be capable to make commitments to a
Hmm,
person, to a
hmm,
purpose, to a cause, to
absolutely.
anything.
Commitment
And
today is
I
a
think
scale.
you and me are really, really tested here enormously to do something together that no one has done before. I know there are lots of coaching schools, and there are people who call themselves coaches and mentor
Hmm,
others and give them certifications. But that's not what we are doing here. I'm not saying I'm a coach and I train you, and then because I have already more experience, I see the vision of a lighthouse system all over the planet, that we are training coaches and they're certified and they become eventually, accredited under the ICF. And that's really important to you. I know that's why we are doing this together. you're my space holder for this teaching. So isn't it amazing to visualize that in a few years, the planet has all these places between Canada and Italy and Portugal and Belgium and Bali and New Zealand and Australia, wherever people come from, or England, it doesn't matter. It can be any country, but isn't that's why I called it Global Love Coach Academy. A very dear friend and colleague actually, created the Love Coach Academy 20 years ago. But it's not what we are creating. We are creating the
No,
Global
it's
Love
different.
Coach Academy. And
Global.
also we are doing it under the light that since he started his Love Coach Academy, it was all not online. There was nothing much online. But we began, this journey at a time after COVID, where a lot of coaches would say, you do the training online and you do all this work globally on this digital level. But you and me decided we bring it back into one space, into the room, into the, into the,
We can't
into
talk about
this.
relationship with the online. That doesn't fit.
Exactly. So where we differentiate ourselves, Miguel, is my vision. And I heard you asking me several times in Portugal, or wouldn't we do one module online? Couldn't we let them start online and then? But in one thing, I'm almost religious and building it at the moment where I totally, utterly want this to be in a live scenario. And if this means that people have to wait or save the money, or we need to give scholarships, or we are, we are not just thinking about the training, but something much bigger and help them to create something not just short term, but long term. That is really the vision I have. So, and I'm so glad that you share my vision and that you trust my vision. And I know there are moments where you probably would have wonderful things to how can I say to add value in saying, hey, let's just do it differently. But at
Because
the
together,
moment,
I
I
mean,
think, we are in this privileged
mm,
situation that I'm so close to amazing places that we found a venue that is almost ideal for the kickstart, for the inauguration of our training, with a beautiful big octagon studio in the middle of Uluwatu forest, having huge space and being laid out as very sacred and beautiful to do this training. And I'm really, really happy. So Miguel, I think the conversation is deep and long and profound. And I think I want to bring it to an end. Now, what is the last some sort of message and thought or even story you want to bring to conclude our conversation, our Venus talk today?
I think what is important is you say something, engagement, commitment. Today, we live in a world that is easy to not commit. Um, I'm just giving you an example. Everything has become, and that's my anthropological background saying this, sociology, it's like today we live in a world of consumerism. We consume relationship. We don't live relationship, we consume them. Whenever we feel, I mean, when we say the tendency, I would say, not everybody, thanks God, but the tendency today is about consumerism. And as long as we approach a relationship as in the consuming way, which means like, okay, what I need, I find this, I find a meaning for this, but now I don't like it, I throw it away. I start with a new one. You see all this app with swiping left, swiping right. It's all about consuming things. We like the capitalization of even the relationship. That's what has damaged a lot the relation. The commitment as really today is really today a thing, and the first person we get to commit to is ourselves. I
Yeah,
commit
that's
to
a very beautiful analogy. Yes, thank you.
I commit myself to love myself, but I because what is in within will transfer to the outer world. And I truly believe in what you're saying and what we're doing because there is a need, and I truly believe that this is happening so smoothly, so easily, because we are in on the path that we are creating our vision because it's needed. And you can just see how people are reaching out to us with the work we're already doing because there is a need.
And we
And
haven't even started the proper marketing yet, isn't it? Yes.
exactly, isn't it amazing? And people from all over the world, we had this talk with people from in Canada and here and there, etc. And I'm really, really amazed by this. But the one thing I want to say, and you say there are so many things out there, and I don't say that we are better or worse. When I want to say that we hold standards, and I want to emphasize on the ethics of ICF, also coming back to this, because we cannot talk about a relationship without ethical standards. Because when there is at play emotions, roles, different things, when we commit, and this is where the commitment is to standards of ethics, to ethics, behavior. And this is, it's not you commit to somebody else until the death or whatever, even though the relationship is toxic. No, I'm not saying this. I'm saying that commit to ethics. That means that your life will be more ethical. And that is a fertile soil for healthy relationship. And that commitment is what has brought me to the ICF. And that's what has brought me to this field that, of course, I could be a coach of this or that, or a practitioner worker or meditation or this or doing whatever I was going to say a word. I will not say with a word, but practices here and there. But what I commit to is ethical behavior in terms of relationship. And this is what I think the safe container, because a relationship of any kind, it's about a safety container, and that must be discussed. What are the pro and what are the negotiable and non-negotiable for the person? And that's
Absolutely.
where, and this
Mm.
is where we both have started when we met in Portugal. It's like, okay,
Mm.
before we go into the doing of the business, let's be in a being. What are our values? Who are we when I take the head of a business partner with you? What are
Yeah.
my negotiable, non-negotiable? And I want people to know that we started our business partnership by not being by not doing, but by being,
Mm.
sharing with authenticity, vulnerability, commitment, and you were in presence listening to me and I was in presence listening to you, so that we build this we nourish this fertile soil of,
Yeah.
okay, you know what are my negotiable and my non-negotiable. I know yours. So we can respect each other. And it's not about changing the other, because we often hear, oh, for that person to be in my feed should be like this, should be like that. Can we just tolerate and be present for people that are not the same like us, different, but yet be in a loving space, because we have discussed in a respectful way our commitment to engage to ethical behavior. Tolerance is one of them. And I think this is very important, is it when the ICF comes in, because the coaching practice of ICF is based on the on ethics. And the code of ethics is huge, it's big, and it can be transfer and transparent, not
Yeah.
only for business, but in every field. And the love coaching, this is where it's expanding, because we are now, Adrian, embodying this already. The way we implementing this together, we are
Yes.
embodying this. So it's already
And I'm
there.
really happy you say it the way you say it. This is very reassuring for me. And also it really reflects the professional integrity we both are really, really visualizing this in. I'm very aware that this has been a very, very fulfilling and deep conversation. And I think talking about the ICF and the ethics, there will be a very soon we need to do more
Mm,
conversations
mm,
and videos and YouTubes actually
mm,
significantly specific talking about this. So anyone being interested, anyone listening, all the details will be in the description box below, where they can reach us, how they can get in touch with us individually, and also, launch dates and sense
Mm.
of training, and also, really, really pointing out that we are very open to just be approached for simple conversations without even
Absolutely.
people needing to be already aware that the profession of love coaching is what they want. So let's just be still very open-minded in this process,
Yes.
and make a promise. You and me, we are coming back. We will share more,
Mhm.
Miguel and myself, and I really look, forward to an amazing journey. And for now, Miguel, I just wish you a very, very, very holy and sacred Christmas, and a wonderful,
Mhm.
vision into the new year. And they made this shift really, really bring your second year of presidency more and more upgrades and wonderful experiences. And I'm looking so much forward doing this work with you next year.
Me
So,
too. Thank you.
yeah, from all my heart, my gratitude to Belgium, and God bless. All right.
Thank you very much.
Mm.